Hi, I'm Becky Breed,
And I'm Lucy Adkins.
and we are here as co-writers of The Fire Inside, a companion for the creative life. A big thanks to Boulder Bookstore for hosting us and carrying our book. Thank you very much. The first question I'm going to talk about, Boulder has given us some wonderful questions to ponder, is to share what the overview of The Fire Inside is. Our book is about creativity. It's about all kinds of creativity, and it also acclaims that everyone is creative. We know the best way to nurture our creativity is through inspiration and encouragement, and our book has a lot of inspiration and encouragement. We want to work with anybody to enhance their creativity, or if you're maybe temporarily blocked, we have techniques and tips to help you jumpstart your creativity. When we talk about inspiration, Lucy, do you want to talk about the inspiration for writing The Fire Inside?
Yes, I do. As you know, Becky, we have spent a great deal of our lives writing, and we've loved every minute of it. Every minute of it. It has added great meaning to our lives, great joy, and a sense of purpose. But at the same time, we do have to admit that we have experienced discouragement, times when we wondered if we were going to be able to continue on. And talking to our other writer friends and our artist friends, they have experienced the same sort of thing. And some have even stopped doing their writing, their painting. From time to time, we all need encouragement and support to continue doing what we love. And that's why we wrote The Fire Inside, to help us keep on, to help us personally, ourselves, keep on doing what we love. And at the same time, as we wrote the book, to share with others and hopefully provide them a little encouragement as well.
When we talk about trying and creating a book as thick as The Fire Inside, one of the things that we recognized early on was how much research needs to go into this. Lucy and I are avid readers, and I think we read every book on creativity and incorporated many other ideas into our book. We tapped into other authors who have studied creativity, other spiritual seekers. We have used quotes from philosophers and just people, everyday people that came into our minds, and we heard a quote that we thought was useful, and they're part of our book. We also wanted to use the extensive research and study that has been done on creativity. And we incorporated into our essays, our personal stories, many of the top thinking scientists about how do we do this wonderful thing of creating. In our bibliography, we have over 125 citations. So we are adding credibility to each of the essays and referencing what the techniques and processes are for getting that light turned on.
Well, I would add that in our lives and in our writing lives, we have had lots of experiences and have heard lots of stories. We love stories. We believe in stories. We think that stories can help us understand better the breadth and depth of what we need to do to improve our lives, improve our creative lives. So I guess you would call this soft research, in which we have just paid attention to what other people have said, the ups and downs of creativity. But in addition to this soft research, we've also done hard research, as Becky has suggested. We are in the creativity business, and we are curious people. And so we have tried to keep attuned to whatever is new on the scientific front, what other thinkers are writing about, discussing, and have incorporated that into our own practices and into the book that we ultimately wrote. Another question that Boulder Bookstore sent to us is, how did your own experiences with teaching creativity contribute to this book? We have led lots of writing workshops, lots of creativity workshops, and I don't think that our book, The Fire Inside, would be nearly the book it is if we had not had that wonderful experience in teaching. Teachers learn, as we all know, as we go along. You have to learn in order to teach. And we have, in our talking with people, taking our workshops, we have found that they have some of the same experiences regarding creativity. The joys, yes, also the discouragements. And we have learned that there are certain tricks that we can do, certain techniques and strategies to overcome those blocks, to keep us doing what we love to do. And that has greatly contributed to our book.
I've been a long-time public school educator and also taught language arts at the higher level. And it's always amazing to me that when I watch students put together a paragraph that they like, string a series of words together, that there are ahas. And we of course we want to mine these, don't we? These wonderful moments that come to us like a lightning bolt. And when we see this happening, and Lucy and I are observers, we watch other people in the process of uncovering what goes into innovation and inspiration. That's what I think we've learned the most, is being in the companionship of and students, of colleagues, of many writing groups, and we took pretty good notes. So we have a lot of this recorded in our journals, and when we began writing this book, we really depended upon those anecdotes and personal stories that we saw and observed. We talk a lot about inspiration in the book, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk about when can't we tap into that wonderful reserve of creativity. What blocks us? What keeps us from being the very best version of ourselves as an artist? And I believe that the greatest block that most of us have, dare I say all of us, is fear. And it's a hard word to say that I have fear as a writer, I have fear as a poet. And yet when I start looking at what prevents me over the years and years that I've written, it's often that self-analysis that I'm afraid I won't measure up, that I'm not good enough. There's been much written about the imposter theory. And I think sometimes I think I'm an imposter, that I'm not really able to do the writing. I think also I worry about what other people will think of me, that maybe I won't meet their standards, or I let them down in some way. I didn't do enough. Fear itself is paralyzing. And what happens to artists and writers is that when it becomes a big part of who we are, we often stop. Slow down, certainly, and we just have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. We attributed a lot of our essays in our book to looking at some of those issues, and then, of course, looking at ways to overcome them.
Well, I would agree with that fear is the reason that people allow their creativity to, let's say, remain in limbo. This fear is real. We don't think we have the real talent, as you said. And along with that fear is a lack of self-confidence. Also, I believe a feeling that by doing our writing, our creativity, we might be a little self-indulgent. And I think that's something we need to get over. But because of that feeling, we sometimes are reluctant to commit to doing our art, and that commitment is necessary. And of course, along with that, we have that old bugaboo, procrastination. I think
Yeah,
that affects
yeah.
all of us. And there is also the distractions of the world. We spoke about the busyness of the world, and we are of the world. And so we are, of course, affected by everything that goes on, and we are distracted by it. We are working in what a writer friend of mine calls the tangled bank of existence. That's where we live, and that's where we work. But it does present difficulties to us. And there are many expectations of us. So somehow we have to work, and we believe it's good to work together as companions to overcome these and become our best selves. Another question that the bookstore asks, and I am so glad to have this question, is what are some of the day-to-day ways in which being creative can enrich our lives? And this is a marvelous thing. The joy, of course, that we have talked about, that little spark that comes to us when an idea lights on us, and that leads to another idea, and then another. And before we know it, we are engrossed in a project. We lose track of time because we are so involved. We are so into it. We are in the zone. And that's a wonderful thing. Also, we have the feeling that when we create something, when we complete it, that we add some more beauty to an already beautiful world. Maybe add some beauty that will last beyond our time on the earth. And that, of course, is a great feeling if you are able to do that. And I guess the overriding thing, though, the one I want to impress upon you is that despite the wonderful accomplishment of completing a manuscript, wonderful thing, finishing a painting, awesome. Besides that, there is the day-to-day process of doing our work, and in so doing, feeding our creative souls. That great delight in doing what we love. That's why we wrote The Fire Inside, that joy and fulfillment in the process that keeps us going, and we hope our readers will feel the same thing.
One more thing I'd like to add, Lucy, is for me, in addition to what you've said, tapping into our creative reservoir gives us a real accent point on what really matters. It helps us focus on those things that count. And when we choose to use any kind of art, any kind of writing, we have to assemble all of our concentration and attention. And then sometimes we're surprised by what is created, what is written on the page. It's a phenomenal process, and I think it contributes to ourselves being honest and finding potentially more truth about how we live and how others live. One way I've been enriched is I have broadened my own circle of friends and colleagues who are artists and writers. And that, to me, has been one of the best building blocks of being creative. It's community. It's really counting now so many people that I can call friends because I've connected with them through our art. I've connected through them through our writing. And it takes us on a meaningful path. I mean, things sometimes become almost a surface kind of interpretation. But when we really care and commit ourselves to whatever we do, that we are on this pathway to really uncovering what is important. And that's how and what creativity means to me. We were asked to talk about books, and we are both avid readers, so this was a great question, and thank you, Boulder Bookstore. There was a big pile of books that both Lucy and I read during the pandemic, but we just brought a couple we're going to highlight. One of my favorites is by a Nebraska author, William Clefcorn. We call him Bill Clefcorn, and he had written for years and years. The anthology that I'm holding in front of you is Swallowing the Soap, and it is just delightful to read. Every day during the pandemic, I just opened to a page, and I was never disappointed. His writing is wry, it's funny, he can talk about loss in all kinds of different ways. And so it was really a balm for me, and I appreciate all the poetry, the very good poetry that Bill wrote. The second book I'm going to talk about is, this one I'm holding up is Olive again. I hope you know Elizabeth Strout. She had written the first book in this series of 2 so far about Olive. And Olive is someone that is what I needed during the pandemic. She's perceptive, she's tough, she's resilient, and time and time again with her story, I can see how she maneuvers and navigates this world. And it gave me strength and courage during this past year and a half.
I would like to mention a new writer I've discovered, new to me, Elizabeth Berg. Her latest, or the latest one that I have read, being Home Safe. Her novels are just like comfort food to me. They talk about real human situations, and after you've completed reading them, you just feel better. And boy, we need that, don't we? Another writer I admire, Ann Tyler. Read lots of her books. The latest I read of hers is a novel called Vinegar Girl. What great characters. You are going to love the characters in this book, and I recommend them highly. Again, something that's just going to make you feel better. And like Becky, I am a poet. Poetry is a big part of my life. It's a big part of my reading life, and I wanted to share with you this book by James Cruz. This is an anthology of poetry, How to Love the World. What a great title and what a great idea. It's an anthology of many different poets, and as poetry does, it encapsulates a great deal of meaning in a small space. And after reading a poem, especially one I feel in this book, you are maybe a little changed. You're maybe a little better than you were before. And again, this is a book that I would very much recommend to you. Well, what do you think, Becky?
Well, they did ask anything else and to talk about this book. And we could add so much, but we wanted to tell you that how easy it is. I mean, so oftentimes Lucy referred to our busyness and how busy we all are. We wrote this book with the busy mom in mind. It is 120 essays, and they're about 10 minutes to read. So the mom can find time during between soccer games or doing the laundry to pick up our book and to read one of the essays. It's also for someone who has a few more hours. You can read several pages, read it from back to front. That would be a great opportunity. But we cannot find one reason why people wouldn't pick this up, because it really does fit our lifestyle today.
So let's give you just a little flavor of the book. This is The Fire Inside. This is what the cover looks like. We're very pleased with that. And I'm just going to share with you a portion of the very first essay. It's from chapter 1, Say Yes to Creativity, and the essay is called The Fire Inside. Deep within us, we have a yearning, a passion, a desire to make and to do, to create something out of our hearts and imaginations that did not exist before, to bring forth something new upon the earth. It is innate in us, this intense wanting, and when we are engaged in the specific type of creativity we were meant to do, whether it be painting, writing, making music, or designing a new way to educate our children, we experience what Martha Graham calls a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening. It's what puts the spark in our eyes, the skip in our steps. It is the fire inside. Do you know that fire? Sometimes it manifests itself as restlessness, a vague dissatisfaction, a feeling that there is something important you must do, you have to do to be true to yourself. It is a little ache you feel when you see a painting that stuns you with its power and your fingers itch to pick up a paintbrush. What you feel when you read a story that is heartbreakingly true and think, I want to do that. The fire inside is something that fascinates you, intrigues you, so that you go to sleep and wake up thinking about it. You want to study it from all its interesting angles and make it central to your life. Keep working on it, falling short in your aspirations at times, but trying and trying again. And if you're not currently involved with something that brings with it such zeal, if you've kept your fire tamped down, unable to act on your passion for whatever reason, know that it is still there, the beginnings of days filled with intense purpose and meaning waiting for you.
I love that, Lucy.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading. We have been involved in a blog for a long time, a writing and creativity blog, and we've really enjoyed that. On monthly, we post at least one, maybe sometimes two different essays, a short narrative about writing or the creative process, and then we include a set of exercises because almost all of us need a little jump start sometimes to get us going on our creative process. So please check it out. The address for the blog is thewritingandcreativelife.com. We want to especially thank Boulder Bookstore for letting us be interviewed. We've enjoyed this very much.
And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.